How's everybody today? Doing pretty well? That's just our logo. That's boring. So I'm going to talk to you the best I can tonight. Maybe I'll share some information that you know, hopefully. I'm sure that you do. Maybe offer you some new advice and inspire some new ideas, and hope not to bore you too much. So who am I? I think we covered that already. Pretty more in depth than I possibly would have, and I so appreciate that. Thank you. As Dr. O'Keefe said, I'm a New York native. I grew up in New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. Worked there for 10 years, lived in the city, and had the fortune to meet a very good friend who was from here. And I came down to Pensacola really to Seaside for her wedding, and I met my husband at her wedding. So that's what brought me to Pensacola. Been here for 12 years, worked remotely for my job in New York for a couple of years, and then out of necessity and creativity and ideas, my friend and I started our own agency and grew it, and we were so fortunate to be acquired by Gorilla Group last October. In fact, it'll be a year next week. So here I am. I'm thrilled to be here talking to you guys tonight, and let's have some fun. So here's a little agenda, content marketing. I'm going to cover some basics. I'm going to go into in depth on a few things. Feel free to ask questions at the end. I'm going to go through everything, and then we'll open it up and have a conversation. We'll talk about, just give a quick overview of content marketing, developing strategy, and then some of those specific tactics that are really essential to creating a strategy. So what is content marketing? Anyone here give me a good definition, or from what you've learned in classes or any real-world experience, what is content marketing? Yeah, offering information, for sure. Come on, someone, you gotta know. There it is, yeah, creating content relevant to your consumers, for sure. Here is the standard definition of content marketing by the Content Marketing Institute. If you're not familiar, if you're interested in content or content marketing, whether for your profession or education, or you're just genuinely interested in learning more, the Content Marketing Institute is the #1 place to go for information, for original data, research, reports, studies, information, you name it. They have the latest and greatest. So their Content Marketing's definition of, Content Marketing Institute's definition of content marketing, as you can read. Content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. And that's the key component to remember in all of this. It's not just, everyone talks, content is king, you need content. It's not just creating content for the sake of creating it because you're supposed to, and that's the thing to do, but you need to have measurable outcomes as a result. So why? Why do companies now have content marketing as a really important strategy as part of their overall marketing program? Increasing website traffic, which ultimately means you're found online, right? What do you do when you search for things? Everyone Googles everything. You want to be found. You want to be seen. It gives you an opportunity to engage with clients, customers, and prospects, generate leads and convert those leads into customers, increase media visibility. So content marketing also has a role in PR now, where you don't just have to rely like the old days, like at my first job where I had to fax press releases all day. You no longer have to do that. You can be your own publisher of information directly to the media. A lot of big companies especially have their own media hubs on their sites now, where the press regularly goes to see updates. Gaining a competitive advantage, whether you're big or small, you have the same opportunity online to create and share information, and brand awareness. As I was saying, every company is now a media company. Every company, whether you're a startup of 2 people or you're a $20 million company, you have the opportunity to create and publish your own content. You don't need magazines, you don't need radio, TV, postcards, none of it. All of those channels, and there's dozens of them, as we know, are available to you online through your own site, your own blog, your social channels, videos, messaging formats, and whatever else pops up tomorrow. Every company has the opportunity to create and distribute their own educational content. But like I said, people don't just want content. They don't want just all of this information that a company can spew out. They need solutions to their challenges. So they need the why. Why are you creating this information? Who is it for? And what do you expect to come out of it? That's the ultimate content marketing goal. Become the most trusted resource in your industry and be found where your customers and prospects are looking for information for you online. And so they find you and they choose you to do business with. Why? Because the world has changed. For the students in the room, you only know a world with cell phones and the internet, and of course, that's how you find information. Well, my 80-year-old mother-in-law still comes to my house and says, "Honey, where's your phone book?" So not everybody, thinks the way that all of you do, and I was lucky enough to be on the verge of that and kind of learn and grow along the way. People often ask me, "What did you study in school to do this?" And I said, I was an English major. I read books and I learned to think and write. I didn't use the internet or email until my first job out of college, and I'm not 100. So there was an interesting study, and the thing about this stat is, I don't know if any of you heard of the Google ZMOT study. It came out 7 years ago, and it's still as relevant today as it was 7 years ago. ZMOT is the zero moment of truth. So just like now in search results, Google now has even a zero search result zero, so where you see that they're called a Google snippet, it's above the first organic result, and it's under the paid ads. But they have the zero moment of truth, which is about realization, customer realization. It's that moment that you don't necessarily realize that you experienced before you are aware of something and you're ready to even seek out more information and then make a purchase decision. So whether we're shopping for cornflakes, concert tickets, or a honeymoon in Paris, the internet has changed how we decide what to buy. At Google, we call this online decision-making moment the zero moment of truth, or ZMOT. And that stat is still from 7 years ago, and it's only slightly changed today. It's still really relevant. People tend to research 10.4 unique pieces of content before making a buying decision. And 81% of buyers research before they buy, and that's even higher now, which I have on another slide. So here are some hard stats on buying, research, and purchase decision making. So now it's 94% of buyers conduct an online search of any kind at some point in the buying process. So whether you're a distributor, you're a sales rep, whatever you are looking to make a B2B purchase, you're going to research information, dozens and dozens of options, especially the more complex the sales cycle. If you're a consumer, you're looking for a new dryer, you're looking for a vacation. You are doing Google research, if you're like me, exhaustively before making decisions and reading reviews and maybe even doing this for months if it's a bigger purchase decision. And the average buyer is nearly 60% through their decision-making process before even speaking to a company. Think about this, especially in the B2B world, business to business, that's exploding right now. My company, Gorilla Group, is really focused on changing the distributor model for B2B companies to cut out, to make distributors focus on commerce as well through online channels and not get rid of the catalogs and get rid of the cold calls and the in-person meetings. And people know what they want, they need to order online. People turn to the internet and social first, which you all obviously know. If they're looking for your products and services, what are they finding? So think about that. Is your website better than the best salesperson in your company? We always tell our clients that. What does your site say about you? Because no one is going to contact you. They're not going to call your sales reps. They're not going to pick up the phone. They're not going to send an email. And they're not going to submit a download form or a contact form if they don't even like what they see on the site. Your site has to be the best and convince them and educate them and get them 60% through the buying and decision-making process before they're even going to take that step to call or contact or download. Okay, all right. So this is a picture of the new sales and marketing funnel. Scoot over. So then, meaning like before 10 years ago, and much longer, we had marketing as a small component. That was just about like the branding, the awareness, the interests, everything from, commercials in the Mad Men day to, like I said, 10 years ago, marketing's function was branding and awareness. And then sales had to take over. Sales had to work on the consideration, the intent, the evaluation, and the purchase. Now it's inverted. Marketing, and especially through digital channels, has to do like 60 to 75% of the work for all of those other functions, because people are still considering and even deciding if they're going to, make up their minds about a brand or a product or a service, and then they're going to evaluate and purchase. They're almost all the way through that decision by the time they even talk to sales. Here's an example. This is the typical standard content marketing methodology model. It gives examples, and you guys will get all this. I'm going to share this with Dr. Hartnett, and she'll send it out. So don't worry, there's a lot of words and taking notes. This is being recorded, and I'll send it out too. So attract, convert, close, delight. You need to bring them in. Examples of those tactics are like blog, social, site optimization, content optimization, influencer marketing, paid ads, conversion. That's when you need the right calls to action on your landing pages. You need forms, contacts, contact segmentation, infographics, webinars. Then they become leads. How do you manage those leads? Through email, workflow, lead scoring. And then delight, they become customers, but you can't ignore them, right? You have to keep courting your current customers, because then they become more educated over time. They need different information, more information, and different touch points than the people who are just still strangers and getting to know you. So this is my favorite. I'm actually speaking on this very topic at Entrecon in a couple weeks. So content marketing levels the playing field. And this is my favorite thing about content marketing. You can be, like I said before, a startup of 2 people or a $20 million corporation. You have the same opportunity to create information and share it in the same channels as everybody else. There are some small companies, I'm sure you guys have all had this experience. I know I'm really well targeted on social media with ads, and which is good and bad. It means I shop a lot online. I was told to walk this way, sorry. What was I saying? Oh, so how many of you have learned about a brand that you never knew existed before through like a social ad or social content? Most of you, right? So that's this, that levels the playing field. There's startups disrupting old industries, and I don't mean old like just boring, where that's happening too, but like new companies that are creating bed linens, companies that are creating shoes that are all handmade in the US. I have a furniture company I now love that I'm ordering furniture from for my house. It's all made in California in a warehouse. So, this is a great quote. This is a guy, John Henshaw. He's a head at CBS Interactive. One of the great things about content marketing is that it kind of levels the playing field among companies, right? You don't have to be the big guy anymore. The content marketing has broken down the barrier to entry for startups. Anybody with an idea and the right plan, strategy, and resources has the opportunity to start a company, disrupt an industry and a model, unlike ever before, because of opportunities like this. Again, you don't have to have tens of thousands of dollars. You just have to have good ideas and a plan. There's a lot of words. I won't read them all to you. These are more ideas. Content marketing costs 62% less than traditional advertising, and that means in terms of like customer acquisition costs. So how much are you paying to get that customer in the door? How much are you paying for advertising or an event or any type of awareness, whether that's content or that would mean radio, TV, and all of that. It costs 62% less. Why? If you have the resources and capacity and channels to create content, publish it, and distribute it, that costs a heck of a lot less than having a TV spot or a radio campaign. Content can be created and published in a day. So the efficiency of that information is unparalleled to traditional channels as well. Smaller companies can reach audiences that they never could have accessed before, that only big companies, if you had big ad dollars, that's the only way you were in front of anybody. Now, anyone can create and publish content. Even larger companies have a better opportunity because, while a lot of our clients, some of them have a lot of red tape to, approving and publishing content, we create this in large volumes and have a really, a long strategy in place, and they have really good review channels internally. So we're regularly creating, it enables even big companies to get more personal, right? I always think of like a blog or your other content channels as your real voice be on your website. So the website is like here's the facts, here's what we do, here's how we can help you. And instead of remaining static or updating your site just constantly with new information, your blog or the other content channels on your site are the opportunity to take the conversation to the next level. So instead of big corporate, they have those channels where they're engaging with you in emails and social and through a blog and other content formats. Here's an example that I'm honored to always share. My former agency, as Dr. O'Keefe said, I was a founder of an agency called Sprout Content, and we were small. We started here in Pensacola, and then my former business partner and good friend moved to Denver about 6 years ago, and we ended up growing most of our team out there. But we were small. When we were acquired, we were only 15 people. We went from 2 to 15 people in about 7.5 years, but we were able to compete and be recognized and seen as probably much larger than we were because we did for ourselves what we did for clients, and that was through content marketing. We were one of the first agencies way back in the day, two of us sitting in this tiny little office in a little old house in historic downtown looking at each other like, are we crazy? No one knows what we're talking about. This is like the end of '09. Companies around here definitely didn't know what we were talking about. We couldn't find a lot of other information about content marketing, let alone a content marketing agency. Like, that's what we were calling ourselves. We took a risk. We were like, this is where it's at. We know it. Some new information was coming out. We're like, this is it. We really feel it is, and if it's not, we're wrong. We'll know we tried. But so from day one, we created content about content marketing. We optimized our site as a content marketing agency, and still 7-8 years later, we were coming up for, I'll say, at least 5 of the top 10 page 1 Google search results when you typed in content marketing agency. These are just some of the examples. And it's not just about your own site and your own content, it's the links to your site and to your content from other really reliable sources. So because we created so much content about content marketing and people were researching, we had students downloading our guides. We had corporate marketing directors, and if you put it out there and you share your knowledge, people appreciate that, and you become a resource for them. So we were often listed in, like, there's Curata, which is a content marketing tool. The second listing was Inc. magazine, because I became a contributor in their agency network, so in my byline was a link to the site. Brafton, it was a much, massively larger content marketing agency that we ended up competing against and bidding against all the time because we came next to each other in search results. So nobody knew. Our site looked good, their site was good, and we said we did the same thing, but it was little old us right next to them. And then same thing, this Content Marketing Institute, we were in that directory, and Clutch, we were in that directory. So those are some of the top results on page 1 that we sustained that. Some of them are still there, I think, even though our site's been on the decline for a year since the acquisition. We don't, it's just there for link building purposes. So content marketing strategy, what is that, right? I've been talking a lot about the why and what you can get out of it, but there's a lot of really tactical things you do to create what is known as a content marketing strategy. And it's not just defined as one thing. So I'm going to touch on a bunch of things because I can't go too in-depth into, we'd be here all night. But these are the essentials that help or set the foundation for building a content marketing strategy. And if you don't have a strategy, it's not going to be effective. I can't say that enough. So many clients we talk to, even really big companies, you would be shocked. They're like, oh yeah, we do content marketing. We have a guy in our marketing department. He creates content, I think, when he can. And yeah, there was an intern that started our Twitter account. I'm like, really? What? Big companies, I cannot name names, don't have the logins to their social media accounts because some intern 5 years ago created them, someone else took over the management of it, and they don't even have a plan for the publishing of their content. You're laughing. You hear it too. I know you do. Okay, here's some essential factors. Again, I'm not going to read all these, but this will be in your study to take home. Essential factors to content marketing success. 1, company-wide buy-in from the top down. I cannot stress that enough. If the CEO doesn't believe in it, if the CMO doesn't believe in it, if the sales director doesn't believe in it, you will not make it happen that well. You'll make it happen to a point, but you'll never get the results you're looking for and never make it as great as you want it to be and you know it can be if the whole organization doesn't believe in it. Why? Because marketing is no longer a department. Marketing is a mindset, and the whole organization, or at least top leaders within the organization, needs to buy into it, believe it, and understand it in order for you to access the people that you need to create this content. Because the marketing department in a company isn't necessarily the subject matter expert on every technical product that your software developers create, right? They know how to promote it, and they probably have a solid understanding of it, but they are not the engineer behind the scenes. They're also not the salesperson fielding the calls or the emails or the inquiries or talking to people face-to-face at trade shows, hearing what are customer complaints, what are their questions, what are their needs, how are we solving them or how are we failing them. You need people at every level and department of your organization accessible as subject matter experts to be interviewed for content. They don't have to be the writers or creators or producers of it, but they have to offer their insights, and then the content team, the writing team, or the agency you work with can distill that, extract that knowledge, and distill it into actionable content that resonates with the different audiences that you're trying to reach. Documented content strategy is why I'm talking about this. Aligned to goals and KPIs. Big companies. Why are we doing this? We've been working with an agency for a year. We have all this content. Yeah, we do social ads, and yeah, we have email campaigns. Well, how are the results? I don't know. We got 86 leads from that download last month. Well, who were they? I don't know. We never looked at that. I hear this every single day, every day. I just pushed back on a client recently, for example. They're an educational technology software company, and they were so excited that someone on their team had the bright idea we're going to start looking on Quora and Reddit for conversations, which is a good tactic if that's relevant to your audience, and chime in and answer and post links to our content to generate leads. Definitely a great tactic, but do your homework and research and all of that to make sure it's a viable option. Well, they got some leads. And for 4 weeks now, I've been having our client manager ask them, well, who were the leads? I don't know. I never looked. Like, not knowing who's even, you can get 100 downloads from something, but if they're not qualified quality leads, then you're just churning noise out there, and you need to reassess the type of content you're creating because it's not reaching your audience. So establishing those goals and KPIs is essential, and that's like, our goal is to generate 20 new leads a week that are at stage 1 in the funnel, and we're gonna map out content ideas and have a whole plan of distribution to try to reach those goals. And if you are creating that content and you are distributing it and following your plan and it's not reaching those goals, you need to reassess and pivot and try something else. Content resources and accountability. So a lot of internal teams and companies, especially big corporate, you'd be surprised. Smaller teams sometimes are more nimble and able to get more done. They're a little scrappier, but big teams. I've even had clients, multi-million-dollar corporations, software companies and the like, that have one internal marketing person. And that person does everything from trade shows to PR to events to email to content to everything. They're managing the relationship with the agency. Why? They're not a marketing-focused organization. They think they are. They have a marketing department. It's one person or two people. You need accountability and the resources to make it happen. So even if you engage in an agency or hire freelancers or get some outside help to help you with this, you still need the people internally and have those processes in place to have this system keep going. So lots of times we've created all this content, we're following our plan, we're waiting, we have to pause our engagements with clients because they're reviewing 20 pieces of content they haven't got back feedback to us in 2 months. Why? Because this one needs to look at that, this person needs to look at that, they're out of town. You need to have a system in place of accountability and renewal, whether you're internally in a company, just managing it that way, or working with an outside agency or vendor. Mapping content to your buyer's journey. I've touched on this a little bit, and I'll go into that a little more too. So, it's not just bucketed content for everyone. It's not an email blast to nobody, right? It's knowing your audience, and I'm going to go into buyer personas in a little bit, knowing who they are, knowing what their needs are, and knowing how you solve their problem, and creating those different types of content at every stage of their buyer's journey, right? Whether they're the beginner, they're considering, their intent to purchase, their customers, right? No matter where they are, they need content in every single one of those stages. And consistency. So as you heard from my background, I was a writer for 10 years in New York before this content thing was a word. And even then, I developed style guides, brand guides, voice positioning, and tone. So essential to any company. Even more so important online when you tend to have so many different resources and people creating content for an organization. You must have consistency in your tone, mapped out. This is the voice in which we speak to people. We never say these words. This is who we are. This is who we're not. We create content style guides for all of our clients. It's like a necessity and a must in any content engagement that we agree to. Content distribution strategy. So you can't just create content, right? You have to get it out there, not just in one way. You don't publish a blog post and hope people read it. It's like, the tree falls in the woods. Does anyone hear it fall? No, same with content. You can't just hit publish and expect magic to happen. You have to work it. You have to slice it, dice it, distribute it. One, ebook, and I'm going to show you an example of that, can become like 15 to 20 pieces of content. It can become blog posts for 6 months. You can republish those posts. There's social posts. There's dozens of social posts in every single blog post. You send it out via email. You take a look at the analytics a couple months later, and you see what's working and what's not. Is anyone reading this content? Are there 3 clicks on the calls to action? Have 4 people read your post? And you're like, it's been up for 6 months. Well, now it's just sitting. And the longer it sits without interaction, update, or eyes on it, the lower it falls back into the Google abyss. And measurement and tracking. I'll beat that home all day. I was not a data person back in the day because I was creative and I'm a writer. Now, no such thing. You have to have at least people on your team or a department or a person or even your own basic understanding of something like Google Analytics or whatever other platforms you're using to understand and be regularly monitoring and have goals set against all of the content that you're creating. So here's a stat from Content Marketing Institute, was someone I mentioned before. They're the biggest, greatest, oldest organization for content marketing. They do a study every year it used to be small. In fact, when we were little sprout with 2 of us and an intern, we had an intern then a couple years later, we got connected with them from day one. In fact, we were really fortunate to have the founders of CMI, when they were still starting up and didn't know if this was going to stick either, get on the phone with us and coach us and help us, and they were instrumental. In fact, they published our book that Dr. O'Keefe mentioned before. I was supposed to bring some, and I forgot them, but I'm going to give some to Dr. Hartnett, and she's going to give them out in some of her classes, so more incentive to go to class. So they do really big studies every year. Now they're to the point where they have these studies done in really specific segmented audiences. They have B2B of different varying sizes, B2C of different varying sizes. They have the educational field. They have technology field. Anything you can think of, you can find. Good for your papers and stuff, too. Lots of original. It's original. They do the research themselves with these companies and leaders and agencies. So here's this year's study. Does your organization have a content marketing strategy? As you can see, 6% said no. We have no plan to have one. 19% said no, but we will have one in about a year. Probably not. 38% yes, but it's not documented, which means there's people creating the content in all the different ways. Like, we have a social person, and we have someone in the marketing department that writes some blogs sometimes, and that means you don't have a documented strategy. And then 37% yes, and it's documented. So only 37% out of all the companies that were surveyed, which is like thousands, said they have a tangible, documented content strategy. And the importance of it being documented is that it keeps you on track, it keeps you focused, and it keeps you accountable. And then you can also prove whether it's working. And if it's working, you get more money to keep going. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, basic steps of creating that documented strategy. Number 1, outline your goals, right? I'm sure in all of your classes, you hear about SMART goals. It has to be specific, meaningful, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. I'm sure you've heard all of that before. But what does that mean in terms of content marketing? So what do you want to achieve, right? Are your goals for a content marketing strategy thought leadership, increase site rankings, leads, conversions. What are your reasons? What is your reason that you're doing this? What metrics and KPIs are you going to use to track success? Have you looked at any data? Where does your site rank today? Where would you like it to rank? How many people open your emails? How many social media followers do you have? Are they engaging with it? You have to do a data assessment before you can even set some of those KPIs and goals and metrics. And is this feasible for your team and resources? I touched on this before too. Can you handle it? That's a lot of times we've worked with companies, they're like, yeah, we have the budget this year, we're gonna do this is great, you guys are gonna help us, and we're in there, and then a couple months in, it's falling apart. It's barely getting off the ground because the team can't handle it. They don't have those people and processes in place. They don't have those accountability factors of they just think it's like magic, like we're the little content elves and we're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be great and we're gonna get all this new business. Well, if your team can't keep up with our team and make it happen, or if you're just in-house and you map out this plan and get approval, but you really don't have all the resources to continue it and make it happen, it's not gonna be successful. Establishing those benchmarks and KPIs. If I said it once, I'm gonna say it 10 more times. Essential. You'll never know if it's working if you don't measure it. And if you don't measure it, you can never improve it. So establishing those KPIs, key performance indicators, that you're going to evaluate whether your content is successful or not. So what are those things? Is it lead generation, conversion rates, the sales cycle? Or you can actually shorten your business sales cycle through content marketing, because people are 60-plus all the way through their buyer's journey before they're even talking to your sales team. How much time is that saving your sales team? They're not on the phone. They're not cold calling. Why? The leads are coming to them. Inbound marketing. Leads coming to you. And then measuring performance. It's not just, I keep saying measure performance. Well, how, right? I mean, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of tools out there now that will help you measure performance. Every single website, whether one pages or 7,000, needs to have Google Analytics on it. I don't care. You just have to. It's free. You don't even have to pay for it, but you need to install it and you need to learn to use it. There's lots of free. I highly recommend anyone in the marketing track getting Google certified before you graduate, Google Analytics certified. HubSpot also. So as Sprout, one of the reasons we became successful was early on we found HubSpot. Why? We were creating all this content for clients, and yeah, we're looking at Google, and but how do I prove this is working? How can we prove this is really working? HubSpot was a game changer for us. It's an all-in-one marketing automation tool that you can use. You can create your website in it now, but it hosts all of your content, your landing pages. It's a whole CMS in addition to a marketing automation tool for email. You can do list segmentation. You can put your personas in there. You can map your entire buyer's journey. Like I can look in one of our clients' HubSpot portals and see if they have a lead and take a look at their lead tracking, and I see how they entered the site, when they first converted to becoming a prospect, which means they give information in some way, like, oh, that's a really cool ebook, I'm going to download that, or I'm going to sign up for their e-newsletter. Like whatever the touch point was, they're now a lead. Anytime they open that content or come back to the site, we can track them and have the data on them based on their IP address, and it's totally legit, legal. There's also a sales tool. HubSpot has a sales tool that's bigger. It's not bigger. It's meant for smaller companies. It's not as robust as Salesforce. It's not as big as Salesforce. But it also then, so when a lead, if you have both systems connected, if a lead comes in on the marketing side, sales gets notified, bing, and if you have your funnel set up properly, the right salesperson will even be notified. You can have it set up so certain content topics, certain salespeople get notified. Like you're just closing your sales funnel like constantly for your sales team. You're shortening your sales cycle by using the right tools. Google Analytics, obviously. Adobe Analytics is huge and growing too. Adobe is on a buying spree. They've just bought up some of our competitors. They just bought up Marketo, which is another marketing automation tool. Adobe is definitely one to pay attention to, in addition to obviously all the graphic suites and stuff. Domo is a massive tool. We're actually a Domo partner as well. Earlier in the year, Gorilla acquired another company called Digital Fusion in Denver, and they are a Domo partner. And Domo is like a big data and analytics tool, and does a lot of custom email as well. And Moz, if you're not familiar with Moz, Moz is the the be-all, end-all for anything about search engine optimization. And they have a lot of free tools that you can play with and try too. They have you can do like a quick little keyword research or run a URL in Moz, and it'll kind of show you some stats on it to get you in the door. So buyer personas. How many of you know what a buyer persona is? Okay, maybe? Maybe? Okay. Water break. Okay. So buyer personas, they are the foundation of your content marketing strategy, because why? You have to know why and who you're creating the content for, right? And you can have, it's not about just demographics like, oh, we're really targeting suburban dads between 40 and 50 who live in Indiana. No, those are demographics. A buyer persona is a fictionalized representation of an ideal audience. And in the B2B segment, or in consumer too, B2B, they don't have a job title. A lot of companies that we start to work with say, oh, we have personas, and we look at them, they're like, VP of Marketing, CIO, CMO, we want to reach the C-suite. Here's a tip before I go into that. All the companies that if they ever tell you, we're trying to reach the C-suite, at the end of the day, they probably are, like maybe they're the final decision maker, but I guarantee you there's about 15 people before that is maybe an intern, they're a college student, they're 2 years out of college, there's someone more junior who's tasked with researching a new solution to a problem, who's the one that's really reading your content. So I guarantee you the CEO is not Googling like, new software service, like that's not happening. So you may be really targeting them, but you're not. You're targeting all the people in the buying process, your buyer personas. So your buyer personas can't be 2 people, 3 people. Really complex, mapped out buyer personas sometimes have 20 people in them. And while that's a very advanced tactic, you have to start with your core people. Who are the people researching? What's the next level decision maker? And what's like the next highest level decision maker? And all the different audience segments that you're trying to reach. So they help you understand your customers and prospects better. You understand their challenges and pain points and how your company, products, or services are going to solve those challenges and make their lives easier. Here's a little screenshot of an actual persona from one of our clients. There's no names. Yeah, Dan, he's a part of a hotel group. We have a hotel supply company that's a client, and he's the focus shopper. Like, he knows what he needs, he goes in and gets out. There's also like a researcher person. There's also like, someone looking for new solutions. So you have to map out who all of your different personas are and map out, content that's going to help them at every stage of their buyer's journey. Here's a little template you can use to get started if you're like, it's so overwhelming. Another thing we do, too, is see a little Post-it note, conduct real interviews. Like, we're just not making this up. We have a whole user experience team at Gorilla that works with my content team to develop these personas, and a lot of it's based on data. We do real interviews. We interview actual customers. We've gone to trade shows for clients. I've gone to some of them. We get them in a room just like this. We ask them some questions like, what do you like about the site? What do you hate about it? And they don't, we're not the client. They don't see us that way, so they're telling us everything. We get really valuable data from talk to your customers, right? They're their best sources of information. How many times, I can't tell you, I've had a bad experience with a company, and I'm like, I wish I could tell them this. They would really need to change something about their marketing strategy, but not everyone thinks like that. But, talking to your real customers or former customers or prospect customers is the best way to get those insights. We also do a lot of data research and Google Analytics and shopping habits and stuff like that too. But you don't need to go that in depth if you're just getting started. You can do, that could be a good, class project if you're working on something, like thinking about who are those core personas and how can I find out information about them? Can I call someone? Can I send out a survey? On social media even, you can do really small things. LinkedIn is a great resource for persona research for B2B markets because it's the biggest professional social media channel. And you can search by people's job titles, you can look at their expertise, you can look at, go into groups and forums and just see what people are talking about and kind of gather your own insights. SEO, this is a topic that could be its own presentation in itself, but I will not do that right now. going to touch on why SEO is important to your content marketing strategy at a very high level. So SEO, search engine optimization. This is like a really big mystery to a lot of people, a lot of companies. They're like, yeah, we need SEO. And we ask them, well, what does that mean to you? Like, can anyone tell me, what does SEO really mean to a company? Why is that important? Yes, just that simple. But it can be really complex, or as long as you have the foundations in place, you're a step ahead of a lot of other companies. So a really good SEO strategy really starts, and I am not the technical expert on this, I am not in the development department, but your site structure really needs to be optimized. We have an SEO team in our department that works also with our commerce and site development team, and they make sure that the site is structurally developed in a way that's ideal for optimization. So it's all mapped out to the page structure, it's mapped out to the wireframes. There's an SEO strategy that starts on the back end through the actual site structure. By the time the site's alive and gets to me, my group, you need to optimize the site and your content so people and search engines can equally find you, right? You don't just want the search engine to find you because you're putting a bunch of keywords in there, and then it's not going to relate to the people. You have to create content around these strategic topics, do your research. The search engines need the content to deliver your site to people looking for that information. So the more relevant and authentic that your content is to that audience, the more likely Google's going to kind of naturally and organically, deliver that content in a search result to people. So don't overdo it, but you need to map it out. You need all of your pages to be well optimized, front end and back end. You need your content to be optimized, and your keyword strategy and your optimization strategy needs to be a part of your ongoing content plan and mapping too. So it's persona, map to keywords, to buyer's journey, content topics. So this is a lot of words. Starting with keyword research, that can be really intimidating. It doesn't have to be. I won't go through this whole thing, but as you can see, you first make a list, right? And the most important thing to remember is don't think like yourself. Don't think like your boss. Don't think like your CEO or your salesperson. Think how your customer thinks, right? Back to the persona. It's always about the audience. It's not about you. Like, the jargon, and I've heard so many salespeople, well, we have to rank for this keyword. Well, why? Does your customer know what that means? Are they typing in analog system, blah, 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 jargon? No, they don't know what that means. They know they need a wireless booster, right? They know they need improve my cell phone service. So what do? You create content. We have a client that's it just popped in my head, a wireless cell booster company, and they do corporate and they do homes and residential as well. So why do you need help? You need help. You're either in a concrete building, or you're in a faraway location, or your home is maybe spread out. Your cell service stinks, or you live on scenic highway. The AT&T guy knocked on my door the other day, doing random surveys, and I was like, "You know about scenic highway, right?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Clearly 8 other people just told you this, right?" Knocking on the door, and he was like, "No," and he's writing it down. I'm like, "Oh, let me map this out for you." So maybe he listens and he told somebody and they're going to fix it, but I wouldn't count on it. Anyway, so if you know your audience's challenges and problems, think of the terminology that they might use in Google or Bing to find solutions to those problems. So, if you're like I said, the cell phone signal booster company, people are going to search things like cell phone service stinks, right? Poor cell reception. Improve cell phone quality. Think of all long form. They're called long tail keywords now. Nobody's searching one word anymore, or 2 words. They're searching phrases. They're searching questions, right? You can go in Chrome now, type your question, type your whatever. So think about all those different types of words and phrases, and you can get your data on using a keyword research tool. There's some free ones. There's a lot of good paid ones, but just to play around with it, Google Keyword Planner, SEMrush, Moz, WordStream. Ahrefs is a really good one too. So you assess, when you kind of, put some of your keywords in, you assess your current rank, you assess the number of monthly searches of people that are searching for that keyword. You'd be really surprised sometimes at how low it is. You're like, everyone must be searching that. They're not, maybe. So maybe play with the words, play with the language, play with the terminology and the tense. and the difficulty for that word. So that means on a scale of 1 to 100, how hard is it for you to come in newly and capture audience segment for that keyword or phrase? The higher the number, the harder it is. If it's like 80 or above, you need a lot of money behind that keyword to try to rank for it. You need some good PPC and a really strong strategy, and I mean like 10 grand a month at least to try to move that needle. But if it's, lower, like 1 to 25, low hanging fruit. I hate that phrase, but like that's all it is. It's right there. Like, 2 blog posts, we share them well. Like it's gonna work. So, assess the opportunities. Now the internet is saturated, obviously, with content, especially depending on your industry. But doing this keyword research really opens your eyes to the opportunities that are available, because a lot of times they can surprise you too. Here's just an example of what it looks like. This is just yours to keep then too. Just a sample of, so here's a content funnel map. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase before, but here's your buyer's journey, here's the funnels, here's your persona, their main pain points. So put some of those quotes, whether they're real or kind of fictionalized quotes that you've gathered from your research that are the most important key insights. What are those keyword targets that you're going after based on your research? And then here's top of funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. What are those types of content and content topics based on all of that research and those keywords that'll solve Director Diane's challenges? There's your map. That's your content strategy. So, how do you come up with all these ideas? That's everyone, so many clients, well, we don't know what to write about, and we know a few things, but how do you keep coming up with all the time? Like, coming up with like 6 months worth, you can usually probably do that pretty well. And then you start to like really, taps out, you're dry of ideas. So here's just some simple ways. I'm gonna go through this, I know we're short on time, pretty quickly, and like I said, you'll have this deck for your own research and reference. Google Trends, awesome tool, so easy to use, especially depending on your industry or topic that you're looking for. It shows you the top categories, questions, ideas being searched. Like you can narrow it down by geographic region. You can put in lots of different parameters, about what you're looking for, and you can laser it in as much as you want, or let's see what everyone in the world's talking about right now. You can keep it broad. Big events like World Cup or celebrities are usually at the top of the list. But Buzzsumo, awesome tool. For the free version, it only lets you do like 10 searches a day, but that's probably fine for your initial beginning research purposes. So what you can do is you want to see, how is your content performing? Do people like this article? Like even on other sites, like you see a great article, like, I wonder if people like this, because I think my audience would like this too, and you can be inspired by other content. You can cut and paste a URL into the tool, and it'll give you the data on like how many social shares it had, or how many people may have clicked on it, I think, maybe, but it definitely gives you a lot of social data and gives you some good stats about who's looking at your content. And then a more robust version also tells you what other people are talking about it too. Again, beating the dead horse, your own data. Nothing's more important than understanding and looking at regularly your own data. So here's these up custom for all of our clients. Some are like 3 pages, some are like 20, depending how deep we want to get. But it just shows you like, how many sessions are happening. You can put up the dates, the times, what's your bounce rate, which means are people coming to your site and they realize like, oh, that's not what I want, boop, and they leave, or are they having trouble navigating your site? Maybe there's a user experience issue, so you can learn a lot about all this data. As I was saying before too, your internal subject matter experts, so important in every company. Talk to the sales team, your product people, your customer service people, your developers, whoever those people are within the organization that have that unique knowledge, extract their knowledge so you can spin it out in a way that your customers will understand, and you keep continuing to educate them. Social media, also fabulous listening tool, learning and insights tool. Listen to conversations. You can set up in Twitter like your own private lists that you keep even, private, that no one else can see right in the channel. You can use tools like Hootsuite or HubSpot to monitor conversations. One of my favorites is Sprout Social, which this is a screenshot of, because with the pay, you have to pay for it, but it gives you can track influencers, conversations, what people are talking about, and you could also use it as a publishing tool. Sign up for Google Alerts. Seems so obvious, but like sometimes the obvious are the things we don't think about. I get in my inbox, here's a sample of my real email inbox. I get content marketing Google Alerts every day. Sometimes it helps me learn about competitors. Sometimes it helps me learn about just new stats or reports coming out or updates. You can set up a free Google Alert to be sent to your inbox on any topic you would like. And there's also some quirky, these are fun to play with. They give you some kind of crazy results sometimes with the words, but there's HubSpot's blog idea generator and Portent.com, which is an agency. They have a cool blog tool generator. You're just like dying for those titles that are catchy. You can put some words in and it'll and kind of give you some interesting little titles of content for when you're needing some inspiration. And distribution. Like I said before, one ebook can become a blog, an infographic, and emails, and social posts, and it just go on and on and on. You have to slice and dice your content, keep it alive, don't put all that effort into creating original content, and then focus again on creating this whole nother piece of original big content. Like you'll just be exhausted. Like you need to really make the most of all of the content that you're creating, no matter how big or small it is. You have to slice it and dice it and figure out where your audience is, because everyone that's on Twitter may not be on LinkedIn, and everyone that's signed up for your emails may not be going to your site to read your blog posts, and the cycle goes on. So not everybody is everywhere you think they are.